Hello, I'm Sue Hutchins, and this is the Iowa Prison Perspectives channel. I wanted to take a little bit of time tonight to talk about the lifers in Iowa and to explain at least my perspective of the necessity for some change in the way that we deal with people who have committed a Class A felony. Here in Iowa, life means life. It means life, natural life without the possibility of parole. Any Class A felony is given a life sentence. And a Class A felony in Iowa is murder in the first degree, which means premeditated, an accomplice to murder, and some kidnapping cases are also considered Class A felonies. What that means is that people who commit those crimes are mandated, if they're found guilty, to serving life without the possibility of parole. We do have a commutation process here in Iowa, which means that a person can apply to the governor of the state and have an interview and be considered by the Board of Parole to be recommended for commutation. If the governor agrees to allow the person commutation, then that means that the person who is serving the life sentence will get a number of years rather than life. So say the governor would decide that this person could be, their sentence could be commuted to 30 years or 40 years or time served or whatever number of years the governor felt was adequate, then that person would have the opportunity to sit before the Board of Parole and possibly be paroled. It doesn't mean that the person who gets their sentence commuted is automatically released from prison. It means that they have the opportunity to be heard by the Board of Parole and possibly given a second chance if the board decides that they are rehabilitated enough and no longer a danger to society. What has happened in Iowa is that the Governor Branstad, and now Governor Reynolds have not found it appropriate, for whatever reasons, to commute sentences. So the people who are doing life in prison now here in Iowa are still doing natural life. And we have 790 plus people who are serving life sentences. A number of them have been in for 30 years, 40 years. We even have a gentleman who's been in now for 57 years. 57 years for a crime that he committed in his early 20s. The majority of the people who are serving life committed their crime that they are serving life for under the age of 25. What we know, and a good number of them were still in their late teens, 18, 19 years old. What we now know is that brain chemistry and science, neuroscience, has shown that a person's brain does not develop until 25, 27 years old. And so we have given people life sentences when their brain was not mature and when they were not able to make a full mature decision about what they were doing. And they also do not have the chance in Iowa, which is this is the main thing for me. They do not have a chance in Iowa at this point for redemption and for an actual second chance. Because for whatever reason, the governor, the past governor, and the current governor have not seen fit to commute any of the sentences. Governor Branstad did commute one person's sentence. Since then, there have been none. So in 35 years, there's been one commutation. If we go back in history to when the death penalty ended in Iowa, it was under Governor Harold Hughes, and it was in the 70s. And when he decided to end the death penalty in Iowa under his administration, and we changed life to mean life, he went on to commute several people. I can't remember, I don't know the exact number, but it was like 30 people were commuted under Governor Harold Hughes. So the statement of life means life in Iowa has never been the intent of the Iowa Constitution or the policy of life sentences. It has not been that intent. The intent was for people to have a second chance, and the intent is for rehabilitation. The intent of prison is supposed to be for rehabilitation. Because that has not happened, and because I have some real heartfelt concerns about life meaning life in prison, and the people that are just thrown away by that particular sentence. I was part of a team that wrote a bill to help change the commutation process so that people are not judged just on the nature of their crime. Every person who has committed a Class A felony has committed a horrible, horrible crime. There's no question about that. And every person who has committed a Class A felony deserves consequences for that. I'm not convinced by any means that a life sentence without the possibility of parole is a reasonable moral consequence for what someone did when they were young and immature and possibly didn't take a life, didn't even know that a crime was going to be committed if they're an accessory. There are a number of people in Iowa prisons who did not even know that there was going to be a crime. They were not part of planning any kind of a crime. They knew nothing about a crime going to be committed, and yet they were involved with the person who actually did do did kill somebody on that particular day, that particular evening. There are a number of people who have not taken a life, and yet their life has been taken from them. And the family also does life when a person that they love does life. I mean, it's a life sentence for the family also. I don't mean any of this to negate the amount of trauma that a Class A felony has caused the victim and the victim's family. I don't, I'm a victim myself of sexual abuse. I understand completely how devastating that is. I understand completely how traumatizing it is. I also there's a lot of other kinds of traumas in all of our lives. We all have trauma in our lives. I believe that one of the downfalls of life without the possibility of parole is that it can put the victim of the crime or the victim's family, if there was a murder, in a position of staying stuck in the crime and not being able to actually go beyond the crime and have their own healing because life means life, and that does not leave much encouragement for healing or for reconciliation or for any kind of actual forgiveness. That's just my opinion. I've seen that happen a number of times. I've also been in commutation hearings or interviews, they're not hearings, they're interviews, listening to commutation interviews where the victim's family actually said that they believe that this person who committed a murder ought to be released because they had forgiven that person and because they believe that that person has remorse and has been rehabilitated and has grown up and now ought to be released. The state of Iowa still has not recognized that as being a reason or even much consideration for commutation, for commuting the person's sentence. While the state says that they are on the side of the victim, and I agree that we need to take the victim into consideration and heavy consideration. In these cases, the victim's family has said this person ought to be released. And the governor has still said no. The two people that I'm speaking about, the commutation interviews that I listened to, the two people that I'm speaking about had letters from a number of people in the community. They had jobs offered to them for when they got out. They had a place to live. They had support. They even had the support of the family of the person who they victimized. And yet the governor did not deem it appropriate to commute their sentence and let them have a chance to prove themselves and possibly get out of prison. Um, that is upsetting to me. That is upsetting to me. And I would hope that that is upsetting to other people in the state of Iowa. And I would hope that that is upsetting enough that people really think about what second chance means. You know, we talk a lot about second chance, and the governor talks about second chance in Iowa. And yet, for the people who have committed a Class A felony, there appears to be no real consideration of second chance. If you have any interest in reading or learning anything about these people's stories and their rehabilitation and what they have accomplished since the commission of their crime, there are several books that I have compiled that have writings from these men and women that are available on Amazon. And there is a reading of these stories available on YouTube that is done by me. If you just Google Sue Hutchins Bleak Walls, Bright Minds, you can listen to the reading of these several of these people's stories. All of the books are entitled Bleak something. There's Bleak Walls, Bright Minds. That is 27 stories of lifers. There is Bleak Walls, Broken Hearts. That's stories of family members and other loved ones, social workers, attorneys, people like myself, activists, and family members who talk about their experience with having someone that they love in prison. There is a book that's called Bleak Walls, Bitter Truths that is about the people of minority people who are incarcerated in prison doing life and what their experience is like compared to what Caucasians experience in prison is like. And then there is Bleak Walls, Better Women, which is stories of women who are doing life. And the majority of women in this country who get heavy sentences, the majority of them, their sentence has to do with them harming or killing their abuser, either domestic violence or trafficking or a drug deal that went bad that they were involved in, or they were involved with the person who was the drug dealer. Very rarely are the women not abused or somehow captured in a relationship that they feel there is no way out of. The reason that I'm doing this short video is because I really believe that the public is not aware of the harm that is done to family members who have someone who's incarcerated for life. And we are also not aware of the 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 value of second chances, the value of giving these people an opportunity to be out here and contributing and actually to give back to society and to feel like they have made some sort of retribution or reconciliation with with the crime that they have committed. I would hope that people who listen to this would have some interest, or that this would spark some interest in your minds and in your hearts to at least look into the way Iowa deals with people who are doing life without the possibility of parole, and also would look into the commutation process that is supposed to be followed in principle and in the Iowa Constitution regarding this sentence, and that life does not mean life according to Iowa's Constitution and according to the policy of commutation. Once again, thank you very much for tuning in. And if you would like to comment on what I have said, I would appreciate that very much, whether you agree or disagree. If you want more information, I would be happy to give you as much information as I have. If you would like to listen to some of the stories, or if you would like to read some of the stories regarding life without the possibility of parole, that is available in the books that I mentioned, and also available on YouTube. Um, and on YouTube, obviously, it's free. You can listen to the reading of the book, Bleak Walls, Bright Minds. Thank you very much for tuning in, and please get in contact with me with your comments at Iowa Prison Perspectives. That's IA Prison Perspectives at gmail.com. And once again, thank you very much for joining, and I hope to hear from you. For now, I will say good night, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you very much. Bye for now.